Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Khoj Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. The recitation is from Gaudi Mahalla Panjwa, composition of the 5th Nanak Guru Arjan in Rag Gaudi. And the recitation follows. Gaudi Mahalla Panjwa, Janki Dhur Mith Khatani, Purab Karm Likhya Dhur Prani Rahao. Aham Buddh Manpur Thidai, Aham Buddh Manpur Thidai, Sadhu Tur Kar Suddh Majai, Anag Jala Je Tove Dehi, Mail na Uttare Suddh na Tehi, Satgur Peteo Sada Kripal, Har Simar Simar Katya Paukal, Mukat Pugat Jugat Har Nao, Prem Pagat Nanak Gun Gao, Mukat Pugat Jugat Har Nao, Prem Pagat Nanak Gun Gao. Janki Dhur Mith Khatani, Purab Karm Likhya Dhur Prani. This is the first verse and the Rahau verse. So from the outset, the Guru says, a being scripts its destiny with its actions. Purab Karm Likhya. When graced, Karam, the mind lovingly absorbs the teachings of the Guru Enlightener. Here one is talking about one's natural inclination, Khatani, which means a leaning towards. So Janki Dhur Mith Khatani. The idea here is that if one is prepared, if one is so motivated, then the mind will begin to lean towards the teachings of Gurmat. Janki Dhur, literally the dust of evolved individuals' knowledge of the self, and here the Jan is the Satgur. And as I said, Mith Khatani is the mind's inclination. Now, Dhur has been generally translated as revelation or inspired speech coming from the inception somewhere. And it usually relates to the notion of Purab Karma Likhya, suggesting actions in a past life. That is how one generally finds translations in English when they talk about Purab Karma Likhya, predestination. We've taken a slightly different tack because we understand that grace is that quality that happens spontaneously and cannot be explained. Because if we attribute grace to some sort of deliberate action by an external agency, generally God as we call it, then it would seem that the individual is left with no agency at all. And yet the Guru enjoins us, exhorts us to be in the service of a great enterprise, kalana karo, which must obviously require a degree of effort. So if we view the verse in that context, then it seems to make sense that it is through self-motivation and effort that we create conditions where the mind learns to love good wisdom. And when that happens, grace results spontaneously, implying that we don't know how it happens, but it happens. Aham Buddh Manpur Thidai. Thidai means grease, something that is slippery, like fat is. Saad tur kar sud majai. Just like grease sticks to a pot, the scum of Haume consciousness, aham buddh, meaning an intellect that is filled with I, just like grease sticks to a pot, the scum of Haume consciousness attaches to the mind. With the teachings of the Sad, the enlightener again, Sad Dhur, scrub the mind clean. That is the way to clean. Because now the Guru is telling us that no other way is really going to work. He says, Anik jala je tove dehi, mail na utare, sud na tehi. So if an individual were to wash the body with the waters of various pilgrimages, anik jala, anik, various, jala, waters, the Guru says, even if you were to wash the body, the grime of the mind's Haume consciousness does not come off. Na uttara. Wisdom, in other words, cannot stick to the mind by this method. Mail na uttara, sud na tehi. Sud is wisdom. So water signifies wisdom, and Haume consciousness is that sense of I is likened to the grime or grease, which is Haume. Just as water and oil don't mix, good wisdom cannot take hold in a mind that is sheathed by Haume consciousness. There has to be some sort of giving for that to happen. And that way is the Satgur. Satgur petyo sada kripal har simar katya paokal. You see, now here's the way to go about it. Meeting the ever-compassionate, true enlightener, the Guru says, I learnt to shift my attention to the self within, har simar. Then my fear of death vanished. In other words, I was enlightened as to my true nature. So the Guru concludes by telling us that Mukat, Pogat, Jugat, Har now, Prem Pagat Nanak Gun Gao, says Nanak, with loving devotion, Prem Pagat, cultivate virtue, Gun, and glorify the self, Gao. Knowledge of the Har self, Har now, is the method, Jugat, through which freedom, Mukat, is experienced, Pagat. So in other words, self-knowledge or Naam is the process, it's the destination, and it is the reward all in itself. On that note, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.